Our Philippines. Please hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you'll always be updated with Our Philippines. The heroines of the Philippines and facts you probably didn't know about them. When people are asked about our national heroes, it's always Jose Rizal, Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Aguinaldo, or General Luna. But within the either unwritten or unread pages of history books and in the achievement of the country's freedom are heroines that aided and led some of the most significant battles for the Philippines' independence. Gabriella Silang. Gabriella Silang is not only the first Filipina who led a revolution against foreign conquerors, but she's also a woman whose husband, Diego Silang, not only recognizes her as his wife, but also his equal. Silang is probably the most prominent heroine in a gentleman-dominant list of national heroes. When her husband was assassinated, Gabriella bravely took his position as a commander. Her name was feared by the Spaniards because of her relentless guerrilla attacks against their army, leading the revolutionary forces of Ilocos, along with the Itneg people, to one of the longest battles against the Spaniards in history. In their fight to liberate Vigan, she rallied over 2,000 men against 6,000 well-equipped Spaniards. Given the numbers and machineries the colonizers had, their fight was doomed to fail. She, along with her remaining army of 80 men, retreated to Abra, where they were eventually captured. Before her hanging, she suffered a tragic punishment as a commander. She was made to witness her men's executions. Despite her unsuccessful wager against the Spanish colonizers, Gabriella remains to be a symbol of women's bravery, courage, and independence. An organization that fights for women's rights, Gabriella, was directly named after her. There is also a monument dedicated to her along Ayala and Makati Avenue, one of a woman riding a horse and holding a bolo. Fun fact: Diego Silang is not Gabriella's first husband. Before meeting Diego, she was forced to marry an old, wealthy businessman. But 3 years into their marriage, the man died. Then her love story with the rebel Diego started, proof that even powerful, independent queens has a thing for bad boys. Tandang Sora. When you pass by Tandang Sora Avenue in Quezon City, do you remember the heroine it was named after? A widow left with 6 children and a farm to tend, Melchora Aquino, or as the Katipuneros call her, Tandang Sora, was already a heroine before she was even called the mother of the Philippine Revolution. She opened her doors to Andres Bonifacio and his men. She provided them shelter and food, and nursed their wounded. When the Spanish authorities found out that she was aiding the freedom fighters, she was subjected to grueling interrogations. Despite that, she never breathed a word about the whereabouts of the Katipuneros. She was later sentenced to exile and was deported to Guam for 6 years. In 1903, she was repatriated by the American government and was able to return to the country. She died at the age of 107 in 1919. She was quoted saying, "If I had 9 lives, I would gladly give them up for my country." Her remains lie in the mausoleum of the veterans of the Philippine Revolution at the Manila North Cemetery. Fun fact: she was the first woman to be featured on the Philippine peso, with her portrait printed in 100 peso bills from 1951 to 1966. Teresa Magbanua. If the Philippines is to have its own Joan of Arc, it would be Teresa Magbanua. In a period when women are expected to be submissive and quiet, Magbanua displayed an incredible stance that was ahead of her time, choosing to rise against these expectations and doing her own thing. According to her sister Paz, Teresa is always looking for action and fears no man. Coming from a prominent family, Teresa finished her studies at an exclusive school in Manila. She later married a wealthy man who owns farmlands. She wasn't just helping her husband manage the farm, she was also using it as a place to practice her marksmanship, particularly with pistols and rifles. When the Spaniards proceeded to conquer her province Iloilo and Magbanua heard that her two brothers joined the resistance, she begged her uncle General Perfecto Poblador to let her join the uprising, emphasizing her honed skills in horseback riding and guns. Her uncle agreed. She led a number of battles that would later contribute to the success of the revolution in Visayas. She became the commander of the Northern Zone and rallied groups of sharpshooters and skilled bolo men against the Spanish soldiers. During the US invasion, Teresa Magbanua also joined the guerrillas to fight against American soldiers in Iloilo. When it was the Japan's turn to conquer the Philippines, Magbanua continued to fight for freedom, even selling all of her belongings just to fund the revolution. Fun fact, she was one of the few heroes who fought against all three main colonizers of the Philippines: Spanish, American, and Japanese. Trinidad Tecson. Another modern woman in her time was Trinidad Tecson, a heroine who chose fencing over the society-imposed embroidery lessons for girls. That in itself is already a revolution, but more than refusing to bend to the standards set by the earlier times, Trinidad is a warrior that fought for the country's independence. She was the first Filipina to undergo the Sandugu initiation, an act of joining the Katipunan by signing one's name with his or her own blood. One of the most significant battles she joined is the Battle of Biak na Bato, where she, along with her husband, guarded the fort's entrance. They successfully prevented the attack and she was later named the Mother of Biak na Bato. She's also recognized as the Mother of Philippine Red Cross, as she used to help wounded Filipino soldiers during the uprisings. Fun fact, Trinidad Tecson had a knack for stealing firearms. Whenever her troops lacked guns, she proceeds to steal from guards in courthouses or prisons. When caught, the witty heroine would get her way out by pretending to be dead. That right there is the kind of drama queen we should stand. Magdalena Leones. Magdalena Leones is probably one of the lesser-known heroines in Philippine history. Her journey as a freedom fighter started in the Second World War. She was studying to become a nun when she and fellow missionaries were captured and imprisoned after the Bataan's fall. During her imprisonment, she learned Nipongo on her own, gaining a skill she later utilized to save Filipino evacuees. When they were caught, she talked to the Japanese soldiers and pretended they just came from a wedding. She later encountered Colonel Russell Volkman of the United States Armed Forces in the Philippines, North Luzon. She was offered to be a spy, and despite knowing the risk and danger it would entail, Leones agreed. She played a key role in gaining important intelligence, radio parts, and even medical supplies, with her church connections and Nihongo skills proving to be an advantage. Due to her fearless contribution, she earned the title Lioness of Filipino Guerrilla Agents. Leones was the only Asian woman to have been awarded a Silver Star in the World War II by the United States. It is the third highest award exclusive to combat valor and fifth in military awards. Fun fact, Leones was an efficient spy, and it was partly due to her eloquence. When captured, she would just sweet-talk her way out of her jailers. Josefa Lianes Escoda. A social worker and advocate for women's right for suffrage, Josefa Escoda was the founder of Philippine Girl Scouts. She was an activist with an impressive academic achievement under her belt. She earned a high school teaching certificate from the University of the Philippines, then studied social welfare programs at the New York School of Social Welfare. She later earned a master's degree in sociology from Columbia University. Escoda was executed when the Japanese government found out she and her husband were helping war prisoners and women and children afflicted by the war. Fun fact, aside from being one of the featured national personalities in the 1,000 peso bill, Escoda's 120th birth anniversary was celebrated by Google in 2018. The company made a Google Doodle of her, Agueda Kahabagan. It's sad that Agueda Kahabagan's name and deeds are unknown to a lot of Filipinos. During her time, she was the only female general listed in the Army of Filipino Republic. She is best known for fighting in the 3-day Battle of San Pablo, Laguna. She fought together with General Pio del Pilar in Southern Tagalog Battle and was given the title Generala. Fun fact, Agueda once led an army in a battle, riding a horse, dressed in white, with a rifle on one hand and a bolo in another. Mulan who? We have our own warrior princess here. If you think this video is helpful, please hit the subscribe button and notification bell. And also, don't forget to like and share our videos and be updated with our Philippines.